What is through knowledge comes ability? I thought you'd never ask, so I made a video about it. In this video, I want you to understand this. So let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to go ahead and start off by recognizing our need for ability itself. And so to demonstrate this, I just want us to go ahead and reflect on all the different challenges that we have in life right now. I'm sure a lot of us have a problem for lust. A lot of us have a problem with depression and anxiety. A lot of us are dealing with loneliness. There's a pandemic of loneliness in our day and age. A lot of us want to grow in love. We want to practice peace. We want to deal with pride. We want to grow in our performance on evangelism, and we want to be helpful when it comes to apologetics. We want to grow in our patience. But all of these different challenges in life, whether I've named them off here, or maybe you can even think of some special challenges yourself that you face and deal with, well, they all have some certain things in common. They have some certain common threads. The common thread between all of these is that they depend on ability. They need you to grow in your abilities in order to be dealt with. We need to grow in our ability to defeat lust. We need to grow in our ability to defeat depression and anxiety. We need to grow in our ability to overcome loneliness. We need to grow in our ability to love and to have peace. And we need to grow in our ability to defeat pride. We need to grow in our ability to have patience. We need to grow in our ability to evangelize. We need to grow in our ability to do apologetics. All of them require a growth of ability. And you can do this with just about anything in life. Go ahead and reflect on the things that you need to do in life, the things that you want to grow in, and they all have a dependency on how much ability you currently have. And so if we recognize that we need ability in life, then it just leads to the next question. Where does ability come from? Where does it come from? Where do we get this thing called ability? How do we come about accumulating it? Well, this doesn't have to be a daunting task, as we actually have a lot of experiences already in our past with growing in ability. A lot of us have the ability to walk and talk. I'd hope we have the ability to walk at this point. We have the ability to talk. We have the ability to problem solve. Have the ability to drive and play games. We have abilities to write and read and make avatars. We have plenty of abilities already in life, and so we can use all of these examples and try to find the common thread that weaves these all together. If you reflect right now on all the abilities you currently have and just ask how those came to be, the common thread that you start to notice between them all is this process of learning. You had to learn to walk. You needed to learn every single game you've ever gotten good at. You needed to learn reading. You had to learn how to make avatars. It wasn't just the head knowledge that you got, but you actually had to apply the head knowledge into the real world. And so by practicing these things, you grew in experiential knowledge. You experienced these things, and so your knowledge grew even deeper. But all of these things have that one thing in common, that common elements. They all have that necessary ingredient, which is knowledge. You needed knowledge in order to walk. You need knowledge in order to talk. Through knowledge comes your ability to problem solve. Through knowledge comes your ability to read. Through knowledge comes your ability to drive and to play games and to make avatars. Through knowledge comes your ability to write. Through knowledge comes your ability to deal with depression and stress and anxiety. Through knowledge comes your ability to love and have peace and deal with loneliness and pride and to grow in evangelism and apologetics. Through knowledge comes ability. Through knowledge comes ability. This isn't a complex topic. This is not a complex concept, but it's actually so powerful. And I think a beauty in it just comes from its simplicity. All you need to do is recognize the connection between ability and knowledge, and the rest kind of spills out from there. But this whole through knowledge comes ability thing, it's not just a concept, it's also a practice in life. And since it's a practice, you can actually get better at it. This through knowledge comes ability thing is in of itself its own ability. And so that's why I say that this is the ability that gives abilities, because you can get better at this whole cycle. This cycle that I'm referring to goes in 4 parts, and this is how I practice through knowledge comes ability every day of my life. So, the first thing that you need to do if you're going to practice this out is you need to recognize the abilities that you want to grow in. Maybe you want to grow in your ability to fight off pride. Maybe you want to grow in certain parts of your relationship with God. Maybe you want to grow in your ability to pray. Well, they're all going to need abilities, and so recognizing those abilities is where you start. And once you have some abilities in mind, let's say, let's just take the concept of anxiety. I'll tell you guys my story for a second. Last year, I dealt with the worst bout of anxiety of my entire life. I wouldn't wish these anxious thoughts on anybody. I know experientially what it's like to have the dark thoughts of anxiety, and it's not pretty at all. It's awful. And so I last year was at my wit's end. I felt like I was literally coming apart. And shortly after that is when I kind of discovered this whole entire through knowledge comes ability thing. So the next thing that you need to do once you understand what abilities you need is you need to find the best sources of knowledge on that topic. For me, I needed to deal with anxiety because this was getting out of hand. So I needed to grow in my ability to defeat anxiety. And so I was on a knowledge quest. I needed to find not just any knowledge, but the best knowledge that I can get. And in our day and age where information is more available than ever before, we are amply supplied in this camp. But yeah, part two of this is to find the best sources of knowledge on whatever subject you're wanting to get good at. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to have an all or nothing mindset with this. Just finding the best sources you can get is enough. For me, what I do habitually is after recognizing the ability I need to grow in, I search up what the best experts are on that subject. The reason why I go to experts is because experts are people just like you and me, except they've taken these concepts that we want to grow in and they've studied these far longer than we ever have, using tools and methodologies far better than we've used. And the work that they publish gets critiqued and tested by peer review. So they're held accountable and they can make their stuff objective. And so I find that experts are one of the best sources of knowledge when it comes to any subject we're trying to grow in. And so to go back to the anxiety story, what helped for me to start out with was going to Dr. J.P. Moreland. He is a renowned Christian philosopher who dealt with severe anxiety in his own life and had to find the answers. So once you've been acquainted with the best sources of knowledge that you can get, whatever's available to you, then the next step is to go ahead and learn what you can from those sources. For me, I'll simply go ask like ChatGPT what Audible books these experts have published on the subject. Usually that's enough to get the ball rolling. And so I'll just purchase a book on Audible and start to read away. And that's the habit that I've been doing ever since then. I've been doing this whole thing for like, I'd say 6 months now at least. And so that gets to the next and final part of this is to practice what you've learned. Once you have the head knowledge from whatever book you might have read, then you need to put it into practice and apply it to life so that you not only gain the head knowledge of the concepts, but also the experiential knowledge. And so for me, what happened with anxiety was after I read Dr. J.P. Moreland's book, Finding Quiet, I practiced what I learned in that book. I practiced the 4-step solution, and I definitely noticed some good positive changes. And it really helped me learn about the concept of anxiety, along with a whole plethora of other things around it. And so, what you find is that when you recognize the ability you want to grow in, you find the best sources of knowledge you can on that subject, and then you learn what you can from those sources, and then practice what you've learned, you will find that your ability grows immensely. That is the experience that I have found when it comes to using this concept on everything in life. I have found how immensely helpful this practice is, and I've been applying it to more and more topics as I grow in life. Thanks be to God. So the practical way that I can show you how I've applied this is let's apply it to anxiety again. So if we were to do this together, doing it the way that I tend to do it, we will first recognize the need for the ability to defeat anxiety. Once you have that ability in mind, then you could go and search up for the expert. I like to use ChatGPT, so I will ask it verbatim what experts are in the best position of knowledge on the subject of anxiety. And almost always it'll be able to find stuff for me. It'll be able to get me acquainted with the experts, and it can even tell me what Audible books they offer for this kind of thing. And so my next step is to read their books on Audible about anxiety, and then practice what you learn, and boom, suddenly more ability than ever before to deal with anxiety. This is wonderful. This has changed my life. It is a wonderful concept, and as Christians, I think we could really amply use this concept to grow in all kinds of abilities for God, to the glory of his honor and name. So, with that said, guys, that is Through Knowledge Comes Ability. I am happy to present this to you guys, and I pray and hope that this will bless all things that you do in life. And so, with that said, go ahead and test all these things out for yourself. Go ahead and not just know this in your head, but try it out in real life and see if this is actually true. Go ahead and see if you need to grow in abilities and where those abilities come from, and see if there's a dependency between ability and knowledge, and just learn experientially if this thing can actually help you in life. And then comment down below whatever you find. I'd be really interested in what you guys see if you utilize this tool. So, thank you guys for hearing me out, and I'll see you in the next one.